If you're watching this right now, something shifted while you were sleeping. Last night, while your conscious mind rested, a threshold was crossed in the quantum field surrounding your life. Most people will never know this happened, but you're here, which means some part of you sensed it. The veil between what was decided and what you're aware of just became thinner. And what I'm about to reveal will explain why everything lately has felt different without you being able to name why. Here's what most spiritual teachers won't tell you. The universe doesn't wait for your permission to upgrade your frequency. It responds to your sustained internal state, the one you've been holding, even when nothing external changed. And when that state reaches a certain coherence, reality restructures itself around you before you consciously register the shift. That restructuring already occurred. You're living in the aftermath of a decision that happened in realms you cannot see with physical eyes. Stay with me through this entire transmission, because by the end, the confusion you've been carrying will finally have context. The exhaustion will make sense. The isolation will reveal its purpose. And you'll understand why certain people suddenly feel foreign to you, while your own reflection looks somehow unfamiliar. Before we go deeper, if this resonates with something you've been feeling but couldn't articulate, engage with this video. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, and drop 777 in the comments right now as an energetic declaration that you're ready to understand what already happened while you weren't looking. What occurred in the unseen while you thought nothing was changing? Let me start with a truth that will reframe everything. Consciousness operates on a lag. Your awareness of reality trails behind reality itself by seconds, sometimes days, occasionally months. What you perceive as the present moment is actually the recent past being processed through your nervous system. This isn't philosophy. This is neuroscience meeting mysticism. And here's where it gets profound. When your internal frequency stabilizes at a new baseline, the quantum field reorganizes probability patterns around you immediately. But your conscious mind, still processing through old neural pathways, doesn't register the change right away. You keep expecting the old reality while already standing in a new one. That dissonance is what you've been feeling. There was a specific moment, probably within the last lunar cycle, when your energetic signature reached a tipping point. You didn't announce it. You didn't perform any grand ritual. You simply endured with a certain quality of presence that heaven recognizes as readiness. Not readiness through perfection, but readiness through surrender. You stopped fighting the process of becoming. And that cessation of resistance triggered something in the architecture of your destiny. The quantum field is constantly observing, not with judgment, but with precise measurement. It monitors coherence, the alignment between your stated intentions and your actual electromagnetic output. Most people speak one reality while emanating another. Their words say, "I'm ready," while their nervous system broadcasts, "I'm terrified." The field responds to frequency, not language, and yours finally unified. When coherence reaches a critical threshold, what scientists call a phase transition occurs. Like water becoming ice, your reality structure crystallized into a new form. This happened silently, the way continental plates shift beneath the ocean. No fanfare, no announcement, just a fundamental reordering of what's possible for you now versus what was possible before. You've probably noticed that old desires suddenly feel hollow. Activities that once excited you now seem meaningless. People you could tolerate before now drain you within minutes. These aren't signs of depression or spiritual bypass. These are recalibration symptoms. Your operating system is running new software, and it's incompatible with certain old programs. That incompatibility feels like loss, but it's actually precision. The universe was clearing bandwidth. Every connection, every habit, Every thought pattern that no longer matched your new frequency had to be gently removed or naturally dissolved. Not because they were bad, but because they would interfere with what's trying to emerge through you now. This is why doors closed without explanation. Why friendships faded without dramatic endings. Why opportunities you once wanted suddenly evaporated. The field was editing your reality in real time, removing interferences you couldn't see were interferences. And here's what nobody explains about spiritual evolution. Elevation doesn't feel victorious at first. It feels destabilizing because you're being asked to operate from a center of gravity you haven't fully located yet. Your old identity built on struggle and striving is dissolving. But your new identity, rooted in aligned action and magnetic attraction, hasn't fully formed. You're in the space between identities. And that space is designed to feel uncertain. Uncertainty is the soil where new selves grow. What happened while you weren't looking is this. The architecture of your personal reality was renovated. Walls that once contained you were removed. Ceilings that limited you were raised. Foundations that couldn't support your next expression were reinforced. And all of this occurred beneath your conscious awareness, because if you had known what was happening, your ego would have interfered. It would have tried to control the process, which would have corrupted the outcome. So you were kept in a state of not knowing. That was mercy, not cruelty. The quantum field protected you from your own premature understanding. It allowed the work to complete before revealing what was being built. And now the revelation phase has begun, which is why you're here, which is why this message found you at this exact moment in linear time. But here's what changes everything. The shift that already occurred wasn't just personal. It was hierarchical, meaning forces beyond the material plane took notice. And that's where this transmission takes a turn that most spiritual content avoids. Because what I'm about to share isn't metaphor, it's mechanics. Why celestial intelligence is responding to what's stabilized in you. There's a level of spiritual advancement that most teachers don't discuss because it sounds too mystical for the modern mind. But truth doesn't bend to comfort. So I'm going to say this plainly. When a human being reaches a certain frequency stability, angelic intelligence begins to interact with their field differently. Angels, or what we might better understand as dimensional intelligences, operating at frequencies beyond material perception, don't respond to human neediness. They don't react to begging or bargaining. They respond to one thing: authority. And authority in the spiritual realm isn't about dominance. It's about inner alignment, so complete that external chaos cannot destabilize it. You reach that not through effort, but through exhaustion. You ran out of strategies. You stopped performing spirituality and started inhabiting presence. And that shift from doing to being activated a response in frequencies that monitor human evolution. These intelligences, what ancient traditions call archangels, exist partially to witness when individual souls cross thresholds that affect collective consciousness. And here's what stunned them. Not your perfection, but your endurance without bitterness. You see, the celestial realm has witnessed millions of souls walk through difficulty. But most accumulate resentment. Most harden. Most use their pain as justification for closing their hearts. You didn't. You stayed soft while becoming strong. You remained open while developing boundaries. That combination is rare, and rarity commands attention in higher dimensions. What specifically caught their notice was your restraint. You had every justification to speak, to defend, to explain, to correct. And you chose silence. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of sovereignty. You recognized that some battles aren't yours to fight because the outcome is already determined at levels beyond the visible. That recognition, that trust in invisible justice, That is what authority looks like to angelic consciousness. Most humans serve the divine when it's convenient, when it yields results, when it feels good. You served when it cost you, when it looked like nothing was happening, when faith felt like foolishness. That kind of devotion without reward. That consistency without recognition. That consistency without recognition activates permissions in the spiritual economy that are rarely granted. Permissions to access higher frequencies, to carry deeper truth, to influence reality in ways that bypass normal cause and effect. And let me be specific about what this means practically. Your prayers now carry a different weight. Not because you're saying different words, but because the frequency behind the words has purified. There's less desperation, less manipulation, less hidden agenda, just clear intention meeting clear channel. And that clarity creates what quantum physics calls coherence, a state where wave patterns synchronize and amplify each other. Your consciousness and divine consciousness are beginning to sync. That's not religion. This is resonance mechanics at work. It explains why your discernment has sharpened so much. When you enter a room, you instantly sense who is in alignment and who isn't, not through judgment, but through a deep felt awareness. Your system has become finely tuned to detect frequency mismatches. What once felt like social anxiety is actually a form of energetic precision. You are not broken, you are exact. And such precision demands protection. That's why your social circle is contracting. Fewer people, but deeper authenticity. This isn't isolation, it's intentional curation. The angelic realm acknowledges this shift because it signals something vital. You are becoming reliable with power. True power, not the ego's counterfeit. The power to shape reality through presence rather than force. The power to hold space for transformation without attempting to control it. The power to perceive truth without turning it into a weapon. This is the kind of power that higher intelligences exist to protect and nurture. When they witness it emerging in a human vessel, they modify their engagement accordingly. This doesn't mean you're special in a way that separates you. It means you're embodying what every human is inherently designed for, though few activate. You are modeling the template, and your example sends ripples through the collective field, easing the way for others to access the states you now inhabit. That is why your responsibility has grown, not because you sought it, but because you became capable of carrying it. Yet humility is crucial here. This new authority isn't for show, it's for stewardship. The moment you wield it for ego gratification, validation, or superiority, the channel clouds. Angelic forces don't punish. They simply withdraw their support when misalignment arises. The resulting frequency mismatch naturally creates distance. So the trust placed in you carries an unspoken mandate. Remain humble, grounded, and devoted to truth over appearance. There is another layer to clarify. When these higher forces take notice, resistance also intensifies, not to destroy you, but to test whether you will misuse the gifts you've been given. Darkness, or better described as unconscious density, detects frequency elevation before it manifests and probes for vulnerabilities. Will you respond from ego? Will you use your clarity to judge others? Will you confuse spiritual awareness with spiritual superiority? These are the trials. And you have been passing them by choosing not to engage. Your silence baffled the opposition. Your stillness disarmed it. So when I say the archangels are astonished, I mean they are witnessing a human who has attained a level of inner governance, qualifying them for advanced assignments. Assignments without instruction manuals or guaranteed results. Assignments demanding real-time discernment, embodied wisdom, and unwavering faith in the unseen. You are being prepared for something specific, and this preparation mostly unfolds in darkness. Now, let me guide you deeper into what this means for navigating what lies ahead. Because awareness without integration leads to spiritual bypassing, and I won't allow that here. The hidden purpose behind what felt like extended suffering is where many get stuck. They grasp intellectually that challenges foster growth, yet still harbor resentment toward the process. That resentment blocks the gifts the hardship intended to deliver. So let's precisely reframe what you experienced. The season you called stagnation was not stagnation, it was recalibration. Your entire nervous system was rewiring to manage higher voltages of creative energy without short-circuiting. Had you been elevated before this rewiring finished, the increased intensity would have destabilized you. You would have manifested from wounded patterns, producing results that appeared successful but felt hollow. The delay was protection disguised as punishment. Here, is how to recognize when difficulty is actually preparation for an upgrade. First, external circumstances may feel stuck, yet your internal awareness continues to expand. You are learning faster than you are achieving. This is intentional. Consciousness must evolve before conditions shift. Otherwise, new conditions overwhelm underdeveloped consciousness. You are being granted time to catch up to your destination. Second, you may feel isolated but not lonely. There is a distinction. Loneliness is the pain of disconnection. Isolation is the gift of focused growth. You were separated from influences that would have diluted your frequency during its most vulnerable refinement phase. Like a seed germinating underground, you needed darkness and pressure to crack your shell. Had you remained socially comfortable, that cracking would not have happened. Third, old coping strategies cease to work. What once soothed you now feels hollow. What once motivated you now feels meaningless. This is not depression, it is completion. Those mechanisms fulfilled their purpose and are now obsolete. Your system is compelling you to discover new ways to meet your needs, ways aligned with who you are becoming, not who you were. This season also taught you something invaluable that most never learn. How to be with yourself without distraction, how to sit with discomfort without immediately seeking relief, how to trust the process when it appears that nothing is happening. These capacities, this tolerance for uncertainty, this faith without evidence, are the foundations of mastery. Mastery is not taught in comfort. It is forged in the fire of not knowing. You are also cultivating discernment at a level that only emerges through trial and error. You had to distinguish between divine timing and fear-based procrastination, between surrender and passivity, between patience and settling, between solitude and avoidance. These distinctions cannot be taught intellectually. They must be lived, felt, and embodied through direct experience. And that is exactly what you did. Every time you stayed when leaving would have been easier, you built capacity. Every time you remained kind when bitterness was justified, you expanded your bandwidth. Every time you chose faith when cynicism beckoned, you strengthened your connection to Source. None of those moments felt significant in the moment, but cumulatively, they forged a structural integrity in your consciousness, capable of handling what is about to flow through you. Here is the part that will heal something deep. You believed you were failing during that time. You judged yourself for not progressing faster, for not having more to show, for not being further along. That self-judgment was the final layer of ego needing to dissolve, because true spiritual authority does not perform. It simply is. You could not access that isness until you stopped trying to prove yourself to invisible audiences. The seasons stripped away your need for external validation. They removed your attachment to timelines. They dissolved your addiction to knowing what comes next. In doing so, they created space for something more authentic to emerge, not a constructed identity based on achievements, but an essential presence grounded in alignment. That presence is what now attracts different opportunities. It is what people sense around you, even if they cannot name it. So stop calling that time wasted. It was sacred. It was necessary. And the fact that you endured it with your heart still open means you passed the initiation. Now you are in the integration phase, where all you learned in darkness begins to express in light. This is the phase where inner work translates into outer impact, private transformation becomes public contribution, and personal mastery evolves into collective service. But only if you do not rush it. Only if you honor the pace at which insight becomes embodiment. Only if you resist the urge to perform what is still forming. This brings me to the energetic signature you now carry, and why certain forces recognized you before you recognized yourself. The invisible mark that made you a target before you understood your calling. From the moment you incarnated into this timeline, you carried a frequency signature that identified you as disruptive to unconscious systems. This was not something you earned. It was something you brought with you. That signature made you visible to forces that prefer humanity remain asleep. Let me be clear, because spiritual bypassing often skips shadow work. There are layers of reality operating through manipulation, control, and energy harvesting. Not because they are evil in a cartoon villain sense, but because unconscious patterns perpetuate themselves through unconscious beings. When a consciousness begins to awaken, those patterns react, not with awareness, but with automatic defensive responses. You felt this early on. As a child, you likely sensed things others did not. You knew when adults lied, even when their words sounded truthful. You felt the emotional atmosphere of spaces before anyone spoke. You withdrew from social situations that others found enjoyable because something in you recognized the game being played and wanted no part of it. That wasn't social anxiety. That was spiritual immunity. The mark you carry is discernment that operates at the frequency level. You don't just hear words, you feel the intention behind them. You don't just see actions, you sense the motivation underneath. This makes you difficult to manipulate, which makes you dangerous to systems built on manipulation. So those systems which operate through collective unconsciousness tried to convince you something was wrong with you. They labeled your sensitivity as weakness, your discernment as judgment, your boundaries as coldness. But you couldn't fully suppress it. Even when you tried to fit in, even when you mimicked normalcy, something in you remained untamed. That untamed essence is what darkness recognized and tried to exhaust. If it couldn't corrupt you, it would try to wear you down through isolation, confusion, and self-doubt. Make you question your perception enough times, and maybe you'd stop trusting it, make you feel crazy enough, and maybe you'd abandon your inner knowing. Except you didn't. You question yourself. Yes, you doubted your value. Absolutely. But somewhere beneath all that noise, a core of clarity remained intact. You kept returning to truth, even when truth made your life harder. You kept choosing integrity, even when compromise would have brought relief. And that consistency, that refusal to betray yourself even when no one was watching, that's what sealed your protection. Because here's what most don't understand about spiritual warfare, which is really just frequency warfare. You can't be manipulated at a frequency you're not resonating with. When your base frequency is truth, lies cannot lodge in your field. They might cause temporary confusion, but they can't establish permanent residence. Your system naturally rejects them the way a healthy body rejects toxins. That's not something you do. It's something you are. And this is why attacks came in subtle forms rather than obvious ones. Emotional exhaustion rather than physical danger. Mental fog rather than mental breakdown. Relational isolation rather than total abandonment. The goal was never to destroy you. It was to keep you small enough that you wouldn't activate your full capacity, because your full capacity is a threat to every system built on keeping people disempowered. Now you're reaching the stage where that capacity is coming online. And this is where the responsibility intensifies, because with greater sight comes greater choice. You can see manipulation patterns others can't. You can sense energy dynamics most people miss. And you have a choice. Use that discernment to feel superior, or use it to serve with compassion. The first path leads to spiritual ego and eventual isolation. The second path leads to embodied mastery and authentic connection. The mark you carry isn't for your benefit alone. It's for those who will need someone who can see clearly when they're lost in confusion. Someone who can hold steady when everything feels chaotic. Someone who can name truth when everyone else is speaking comfortable lies. That someone is you. Not because you're perfect, but because you've been forged through enough trials that your clarity can't be easily shaken. Now, what we've explored today about frequency recognition and celestial response is just one layer of a much deeper system. If you're feeling the pull to understand the complete mechanics of how consciousness creates reality, how to stabilize at higher frequencies permanently, and how to move from unconscious transmission to becoming the broadcast itself, I've compiled everything into a comprehensive guide called Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. It takes you through the 9 master frequencies and gives you the step-by-step practices to shift from seeking external change to embodying the field that creates it. You'll find it linked in the pinned comment below. And here's what will help you navigate this next phase without losing yourself. The mark attracts both those who need your light and those who want to drain it. Learning the difference is crucial. Those who need your light will respect your boundaries. Those who want to drain will violate them repeatedly while claiming they love you. Watch behavior, not words. Frequency doesn't lie, even when mouths do. You're also learning that not everyone is ready for the truth you can see. And that's okay. Your job isn't to wake people up through force. Your job is to remain awake yourself and let your presence create permission for others to awaken when they're ready. Pushing truth on unready consciousness creates resistance. Embodying truth as a lived reality creates curiosity. Be the invitation, not the demand. Take a moment and share in the comments below. What's one pattern or belief you've recently let go of that no longer serves your frequency? Your sharing might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Take a moment here and comment below with this exact phrase. I see what was hidden, and I choose to serve what's real. Let that declaration move through you as more than words. Let it be an energetic agreement between your conscious self and the forces that have been guiding your path all along. Now, as we move deeper into this transmission, I want to address the specific shifts you're experiencing right now and what they're signaling about where you're heading. Because what you're feeling isn't random, and it isn't temporary. The unmistakable evidence that a cosmic verdict was issued in your favor. If you've been paying attention to your internal state lately, you've probably noticed a quality of peace that doesn't match your external circumstances. Things might not be resolved yet, but you're not panicking about them anymore. That shift from anxious, striving to calm trust isn't personality change. It's frequency upgrade. And it signals something profound. The universe already decided in your favor. Here's how this works in quantum terms. Reality exists in probability states until observation collapses those probabilities into specific outcomes. But consciousness isn't passive observation. It's creative participation. Your sustained emotional state acts as a continuous observation that selects which probability branch you're collapsing into manifestation. And when your state stabilizes at a certain frequency, the probability field reorganizes around that frequency as the new baseline. That reorganization already happened for you. Somewhere in the recent past, Your internal state reached a coherence level that triggered a cascade of probability shifts. Doors that were closed are now opening, not because you forced them, but because you stopped being a vibrational match to closed doors. Relationships that were toxic are naturally dissolving, not because you're cutting people off, but because your frequency is no longer compatible with toxicity. Opportunities that seemed impossible are becoming available, not because you suddenly became worthy, but because you've always been worthy, and now you're finally resonating with that truth. The evidence is everywhere once you know what to look for. First, notice how your tolerance for dysfunction has disappeared. You used to be able to sit through conversations that drained you. Now you physically cannot. Your body refuses. That's not rudeness. That's recalibration. Your system is rejecting what doesn't match your new frequency, the way water rejects oil. They can occupy the same space temporarily, but they cannot blend. Second, pay attention to how quickly you recover from setbacks. Now, something that would have derailed you for weeks before now rolls off within hours or days. That's not because problems got smaller. It's because your foundation got stronger. You're rooted in something stable enough that surface storms can't uproot you. This is what spiritual teachers mean by being in the world, but not of it. Circumstances still affect you, but they don't define you anymore. Third, observe the quality of your attention. You're less scattered, more focused. You can hold concentration without constant stimulation. You can sit in silence without discomfort. This is rare in a culture addicted to distraction. And it signals that your consciousness is consolidating rather than fragmenting. Consolidated consciousness is powerful consciousness because it's not leaking energy in multiple directions. If this understanding is landing for you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you stay connected to this frequency as we continue exploring these consciousness principles together. Fourth, notice the shift in your prayer or meditation practice. It feels less like begging and more like communing. Less like talking at the divine and more like listening with it. This shift from monologue to dialogue means the channel is opening. You're not just broadcasting anymore. You're receiving. And what you're receiving is guidance that feels like your own intuition, because it is. Your intuition is divine intelligence, filtered through your unique frequency. Fifth, watch how synchronicities are increasing. You think of someone and they text. You need information, and it appears. You wonder about something, and a conversation delivers the answer. These moments are not coincidences. They are confirmations that your frequency is aligning with the flow of the universe. They remind you that you are not alone, that the cosmos is responding to your inner state, and that your path is unfolding exactly as it should. Keep noticing, keep trusting, and keep moving forward. These are not mere coincidences. They are coherences. When your inner frequency aligns with the field responds with greater precision. It has always been responding, but now you're tuned to the correct station, allowing you to truly receive the signal. Sixth, your perception of time is shifting. You find yourself less fixated on schedules, less anxious about when events will unfold. This isn't because you've stopped caring, but because you trust the timing. This trust is not blind faith. It's a deep, felt knowing. Your body comprehends at a cellular level that what is meant for you cannot miss you. This understanding fosters a relaxation that actually speeds up manifestation, as you no longer obstruct the flow with resistance. Seventh, and this is vital, you're becoming less reactive to the chaos around you. Other people's drama no longer drags you in as it once did. You can observe without absorbing, care without carrying. This boundary is not coldness, it's clarity. You've discerned the difference between empathy and enmeshment, between support and sacrifice, between presence and fusion. These distinctions safeguard your energy, enabling you to serve from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. If this message resonates deeply, if it names experiences you've had but couldn't articulate, I invite you to subscribe, not just to this channel, but to this frequency. Join a community of consciousness explorers dedicated to embodiment over performance, truth over comfort, presence over distraction. Click subscribe and activate notifications, because we are cultivating a field of collective coherence. The more of us who stabilize at this frequency, the more the world mirrors that stability. Now, let's get practical, because awareness without action is merely spiritual entertainment, and I refuse to let this be just that. So here's your navigation guide for moving through this next phase without undermining what's emerging. How to steward this transition without collapsing what's being built. The first responsibility is stillness, not inactivity, but stillness. There's a profound difference. Stillness is active presence without reactive movement. It's the capacity to hold space for emergence without forcing outcomes. You are currently in the space between what was and what is becoming. This space feels empty because the old has passed, but the new hasn't fully formed yet. That emptiness is sacred. Resist filling it prematurely with busy work or forced action. Allow the void to do its work. The second responsibility is silence, not about everything, but about what is forming. Every creation has a gestation period. Speaking too soon about what is trying to birth through, you can abort the process. This isn't secrecy born of fear. It's protection from premature exposure. When you share vulnerable new growth with those unequipped to nurture it, their doubt, judgment, or even well-meaning advice can undermine your confidence. Share with the divine. Share with trusted guides. But guard the seedling until its roots are strong enough to weather storms. The third responsibility is discernment regarding where you invest your energy. Your attention is your most precious resource because energy follows attention, and energy is the currency of manifestation. Conduct a ruthless audit of your life. What are you focusing on out of obligation versus genuine alignment? Which relationships do you maintain out of guilt rather than reciprocity? What activities do you engage in out of habit rather than inspiration? Cut the dead weight, not with drama, but with clear boundaries and quiet redirection. The fourth responsibility is humility without self-denishment. You are cultivating real power now. The power to influence through presence, to shift energy in a room, to speak truths that catalyze change. This power must be held with profound humility, or it will curdle into ego inflation. But humility does not mean diminishing yourself. It means remaining grounded in your humanity while honoring your divinity. Both are true. You are human with flaws and limitations, and you are divine with limitless creative potential. Hold both truths simultaneously. The fifth responsibility is consistency in your practices. Whatever connects you to source, meditation, prayer, movement, nature, creativity, commit to it daily. Don't abandon these practices just because you feel good. Spiritual bypassing occurs when people use initial awakening experiences as an excuse to stop doing the inner work. Awakening is not a destination, it's an ongoing journey. The practices that brought you here are not training wheels to discard. They are the maintenance system that keeps you operating at this frequency. The sixth responsibility is compassion for those still asleep. As your awareness expands, you will notice dysfunction in people and systems you either didn't see before or could now name. This can tempt you toward judgment or superiority. Resist that urge fiercely. Everyone is exactly where they need to be for their own evolution. Your role is not to wake them up, but to stay awake yourself. Sometimes the most powerful teaching is simply being a stable presence of peace in a chaotic world. The seventh responsibility is trust in divine timing over human urgency. You want things to happen now, but the universe knows they must unfold at precisely the right moment for maximum impact and minimal collateral damage. Rushing manifestation often results in distorted versions of what you truly desire. Trusting timing brings exactly what you need in forms you couldn't have imagined. Practice patience, not passive waiting, but active trust that everything is unfolding perfectly, even if it doesn't look as you expected. The eighth responsibility is caring for your physical vessel. Spiritual work happens through your body, not apart from it. If you're exhausted, depleted, undernourished, or overextended, your channel becomes clouded. Rest is not laziness, it's strategic. Nutrition is not superficial, it's foundational. Movement is not optional, it's essential. Your body is the antenna through which consciousness transmits into form. Keep that antenna clear. The ninth responsibility is honest self-assessment without self-judgment. You will make mistakes. You will misread situations. You will act from ego when you thought you were acting from spirit. This is part of the process. What matters is whether you can quickly acknowledge the miss, course correct without drama, and extract the lesson without shame. Perfection is not the goal. Growth is, and growth requires mistakes as feedback. The 10th responsibility is remembering why you're doing this. Not for fame, not for validation, not even for personal happiness, though that may come as a byproduct. You're doing this because your soul came here with a specific mission. That mission requires you to be as clear, awake, and embodied as possible. Everything else is secondary. Keep your purpose as your North Star, especially when the path becomes confusing. If you're still here, drop one word in the comments that captures the energy you choose to embody moving forward. Just one word. Let it be your declaration to the quantum field, your energetic signature announcing how you're showing up from this moment on. Now, to bring this full circle, I'll leave you with the transmission your soul needs to anchor this understanding into your cells. Information in the mind is useless unless it descends into the body as lived wisdom, the space between divine confirmation and physical manifestation. Hear what you must understand with absolute clarity. You are standing in the most sacred space in the manifestation process, the space where heaven has already spoken, but earth has not yet reflected the decision. This is where most people lose faith. They mistake the lag between cause and effect for evidence that nothing is happening, and they abandon the frequency they've been holding right before breakthrough. Don't make that mistake. The lag is not emptiness, it's incubation. The universe is orchestrating thousands of variables, coordinating timelines, aligning resources, moving pieces into position. All of this occurs in dimensions beyond your 5 senses. Your inability to perceive it does not mean inactivity. It means activity is happening at levels not yet registered in 3-dimensional reality. Think of it like pregnancy. Creation begins at conception, but you don't see the baby for 9 months. During that time, doubts arise. Is something actually growing? Is the pregnancy viable? Will it come to term? These doubts are natural, but they don't alter the biological process happening beneath awareness. Cells divide. Form develops. The timeline unfolds exactly as it should. Your manifestation is in the womb right now. Your job is not to check on it constantly, not to worry if it's developing correctly, not to force the process to speed up. Your job is to nourish the pregnancy, maintain the frequency that initiated creation, and trust the intelligence that knows how to transform seed into form without your micromanagement. This is why peace is your primary evidence right now. Not excitement, not euphoria, not even optimism. Peace. The deep, abiding, unshakable knowing that what's yours is already yours, and no force can prevent its arrival. That peace is the felt sense of quantum entanglement with your desired reality. When you feel it, you're vibrationally connected to what's coming, even though it hasn't materialized yet. And here's what will protect you from sabotaging this final stay. Detachment from how it arrives. You know what you want. You've clarified the feeling you're seeking, but you're holding that desire loosely enough that the universe can deliver it in whatever form serves your highest evolution. Maybe it looks exactly like you envisioned. Maybe it looks completely different, but feels the same. Stay open. Rigidity about form closes doors that would have led to even better outcomes. Also, protect yourself from comparison. Someone else's timeline has nothing to do with yours. Someone else's breakthrough doesn't delay yours. The universe isn't running a race where only certain people get to win. There's infinite abundance available at every moment. What someone else receives actually expands the field for everyone else because it proves what's possible. So celebrate their wins. Let their success inspire rather than diminish you. And finally, remember that what's coming isn't just for you. Yes, you get to enjoy it, benefit from it, thrive in it. But the larger purpose is always about how your elevation serves the collective. How your peace creates permission for others to find peace. How your abundance creates pathways for others to access abundance. How your freedom inspires others to claim their own liberation. You're not separate. You're a node in an interconnected web. When you rise, you lift everything connected to you. Consider watching this transmission again tomorrow morning to anchor these frequency shifts into your daily awareness. And if someone comes to mind while you're watching this, someone who's been going through their own preparation phase, share this with them. That impulse isn't random. It's the field orchestrating connection. When you share consciousness expanding content, you're not just helping them, you're strengthening your own embodiment of these principles and creating synchronistic pathways that accelerate both of your journeys. So walk gently into what's emerging. Move with confidence, but without arrogance. Speak truth, but hold space for mystery. Act decisively when guidance is clear, and rest peacefully when it's not. Trust the intelligence that brought you this far to continue guiding you forward. You're not alone in this. You've never been alone in this. There are forces visible and invisible supporting your unfolding in ways you cannot fully comprehend. And if this message found you today, it's because your spirit needed confirmation that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, that the confusion will resolve, that the waiting will end, that the peace you feel is accurate, not denial, that heaven really did issue a verdict in your favor. And that verdict is irreversible. So take a breath. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the ground beneath you. You're standing on solid foundation, even if the horizon looks uncertain. What God confirmed, no force can undo. What the universe set in motion, no delay can cancel. What your soul came here to experience, no obstacle can prevent. You are witnessed. You are seen. You are supported. And you are exactly on time. If you've been sensing that you're past the most difficult phase of your transformation, that you've already crossed a threshold most people never reach, there's something else you need to understand. The preparation you endured wasn't random suffering. It was strategic refinement for what's about to be released to you. Watch. You'll find this because you're past the hardest part. Next, because it reveals the specific mechanics of why the universe delays your breakthrough until after you've been forged, and what becomes available once that forging is complete. The timing of you finding that video right now isn't coincidence.